There's so many of these backslidden Christians who don't want the Lord to come, and they're always trying to find excuses. That's why 2 Peter 3:3 says, knowing this first, that there will come scoffers in the last days saying, oh, where is this coming? Nothing has changed. Baloney. Okay, first of all, there are those who say, oh, Matthew 24:36, of that day and hour knows no man, so we can't know. You don't even know what that means. First of all, Christ created the world, and I'm pretty sure he knows what he created and how it works.
Right.
Christ created the world. Oh, yes. For by Christ were all things created in heaven and in earth, visible and invisible. That's Colossians 1:16. Now, anyone who ever says, here is the day and hour when Christ will return, is automatically wrong. Don't believe them. Why? When Christ created this world, he knew that there were 24 time zones. So if someone says he's coming at 1 o'clock, he'll be wrong 23 times. There are 24 different time zones, and those 24 change into 3 days. When it's the 17th here in Michigan, it's the 16th somewhere else in the world, and the 18th at another place. So you've got 3 days and 24 different time zones, so you can't know the day and the hour. But he added in verse 33, if you go back and look at it, you will know when it's near, even at the door. How? By signs. In the Old Testament, the 16 Old Testament prophets give all their signs. And then in the New Testament, we have Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 17 and 21, and then all of the book of Revelation, because in Revelation 22:16, Christ says, I have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things, the 22 chapters of the book of Revelation. And it totals 1,000 signs, 500 pointing to his coming to the earth, and 500 after he arrives. And oh, it's wonderful. Now, there's something, though, that has thrown every Christian off. No, they say, oh, we've always had wars, rumors, wars, famine. No, it's not that important. Why? Because they are tied in with two things that had to happen, and they never happened until our generation. And you know what? That is Matthew 24:32. Learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you see all these signs in connection with the fig tree, that's when I'm coming back. The fig tree is Israel, and that is Joel 1:7, Hosea 9:10. No doubt about it. What has to happen? They have to become a nation, and they have to control Jerusalem. It only happened in your lifetime. In 63 BC, Pompeius, the Roman general, went down to Jerusalem and took the Jews away. And for the next 2011 years, they were controlled by all the other empires. But on May 14th, 1948, they raised the six-pointed Star of David and called themselves Israel. And then 19 years later, they captured Jerusalem. Why is that important? Because when Russia and the nations of the world fight the Battle of Armageddon, they come against Israel. There was no Israel to come against in 1818 or 1914 until 1948. And they had to be in control of Jerusalem because they fight World War III, Armageddon, over Jerusalem. You couldn't do it until after 2,030 years, 1967. Now we have the two signs. He says, when you see all the signs in connection to the fig tree, they control Israel and Jerusalem. That's it. All the signs then become meaningful. Now here's another exciting thing. The Jews talked about a day as 1,000 years. In Psalm 90, verse 4, and 2 Peter 3:8 says that we Christians say a day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years is a day. So each day is counted as 1,000 years. Now, boy, is this wonderful. Hosea 6:2. After 2 days, and this is Israel speaking, 2,000 years, he'll revive us as a nation. After 2 days, not at 2 days, 2,000 years, after 2,011 years. 63 BC to 1948. And they became a nation. 19 years later, 2030 years, they took Jerusalem. And he says, when these two things are there, we're at that hour. Russia could not invade them, nor could they have anything to do with coming after Jerusalem, because it wasn't there until your lifetime. We are the generation. And that's why in Luke chapter 21, verses 32 and 3, he says, the generation that lives to see what I've just told you shall not pass from the earth. We're going up. Amen, Rexella.
Jack, that's tremendous. Yeah. All of this history. Can you believe how it's connected with the Bible? How it's connected with what the Lord said would happen? Oh my. The Bible is so very, very accurate. Now, you know, I've talked to people that said the Lord could come back at any time, his return. Sometimes they're not quite sure about what you're talking about when you say the rapture and the revelation. There are two events there, Jack. Could you just quickly give us a glimpse of what those two events of his return really mean?
First of all, none of the signs point to the rapture. That's been a misunderstood thing down through the centuries. All the signs point to something 7 years later, his return to the earth. But you know why we can say that the rapture is near? All right. Now at Christmas time, you see everything going up 5-6 weeks ahead of time. So when you see those Christmas trees, you know that Thanksgiving is right at the door, because that comes 4 weeks ahead. We can know that his coming to the earth is right in the future, because every sign is here. Israel, a nation, controlling Jerusalem. And he says, when you see those two, that's it. So we now know that every sign pointing to his coming to the earth is here. Therefore, we go home earlier, 7 years before that. Now, the rapture is the literal, visible, bodily coming of Christ in the clouds to snatch out of this world, in the twinkling of an eye, every born-again Christian. What? 1 Thessalonians 4:16-18, the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them, with the dead, in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, frighten one another with these words.
No, absolutely not.
Comfort, amen. The ones who ought to be frightened are the ones that are backsliding and living like the devil. Now, the first thing that happens at the rapture is Revelation 22:4. We shall see his face, the face of Jesus. Oh, what a day that'll be. But the second thing is, our bodies are changed as we're going up in the twinkling of an eye. And that's Philippians 3:21. He shall change our vile bodies, that they may be fashioned like unto his glorious body. Changed. That reminds me of a little story. I've been telling this for a long time, and other preachers are starting to quote me on television. This Amishman and his son were talking. He says, Dad, we never see the world. All we have is this horse and buggy. Let's get out and do something today. So they're going down the road, and the license plate in the back says, be careful where you step. Our exhaust is created by the horse. And lo and behold, they see this mall. He says, what is it? I don't know. Let's go inside. And they see these elevators. The door is going open and shut, open and shut. And he says, what's that? I don't know. Let's see. And this little old lady, she can hardly make it anymore. And she gets in. The door is shut. She says, Dad, it's going up, up, up. Now it's coming down, down, down. And out steps this gorgeous looking 21-year-old woman. And he says, son, go home and get mama. Well, whatever it is, we're going to get new bodies, and that's the rapture. And then 7 years later, Christ returns with his people, with his church. And that, of course, is Jude 14. The Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to set up his kingdom here on the earth forever. And I want you to go in a minute, Rick, so let's finish this. That is Luke 1:32. It's the prophecy of the virgin birth. And Gabriel says to Mary, your son shall be great. He shall be called the Son of the Highest. And he shall sit upon the throne of David forever and forever.